TaxCalc26 instructional video. I'm going to go through kind of a sample case, and we're going to go through all the different functions to be able to enter information and calculate child support and maintenance. So really the first part is to enter in the parties and children information. And that's where you can put these up here. This is just a text box. I'm going to call this John and Judy today, and we're going to put the date. Today's the 23rd. I know I'm getting this tax calc out late this year. Had some issues with macros and trying to get past security, so a little bit delayed this year. Ultimately, enter in the party's information, and then there's a button here to enter, remove children, dependents. So if you click that, it should give you a drop down. And right here, there's a minus and a plus where you can add rows for the number of children. I'm going to have a scenario. I'm going to add 3 rows. I like to do it at the beginning just so you can, type through it a little bit easier. And then again, help. I use my kids' names: Harper, Logan, and Grady. And putting in the dates of birth is important. This is a required field. For right now, I'm just going to make them all triplets just so I can do this quickly. But I usually use a standard date if I don't have children's dates of birth, try to make them all minors. But ultimately, if you put their date of birth in here, it will automatically calculate their year-end age, which is important for tax purposes. It allows us to determine who's going to claim or if they're eligible for tax or child tax credits. So under age 17, there's a child tax credit that we're looking for. So that's why the age is important. It's also helpful if they're available for a dependent, but if they're not under age 18, you don't want to have them as part of the child support calculation. That's what this box here is for. Is by default, it says yes, that if they're minors, that they are in the child support analysis. But if you click no or move a child, they would be removed for purposes of child support. And this is also an easy way to age children out without having to, remove or delete rows. You can simply calculate child support with 3, come back, click the N. Now you calculate it again with 2, come back, click the N. Now you're calculating again with 1, so on and so forth. So you can really easily turn off or turn on the child support calculation by using that cell. And then really here, the important part is to enter the number of overnights. There's a couple different ways to do this. We used to have 182.5. I really allow for a little bit more flexibility here. So you can do, let's say, equal placement. You can do it a number of ways. One way I like to do is based on a 2-week period. So you can do 7-7, right? That's equal placement. Another way is just to do it by percentages, 50-50. Another way is you can do the 182.5 and the 182.5. All of these are going to result in equal or 50-50 placements. So it doesn't really matter how you state it. The program is calculating the percentage of time with each parent. And again, that's helpful because we do have equivalent time now. So it's possible that in certain scenarios, you might have more than 365 overnights. And the program is meant to allow that and calculate it correctly. So again, I usually use 50-50. A lot of people understand percentages a little bit better when talking about placement. So, but you can use, 9-5, right? 6-8 schedules, all that. You can explain it or calculate it in that way as well. So once you have the parties information and the children information, don't forget the names and dates of birth of the parents. So I'll put, and these flow throughout the program too. So if you enter them here, you'll see the names show up kind of again here in the overnights. You'll see the names show up. You'll see the names show up in a lot of the prompts as we go through it. So that's really the first piece. Enter in the information you have about the parties around the children. And really now you start to look at the party's income information. So I'd skip right to the income. And again, enter in the information you have. I'm going to throw in 200,000 of earned income here for Grant. We'll put Steph here at 50,000 earned income. There's other types of income that you obviously could enter: self-employment income. Other income is really just to capture everything else. Anything that doesn't have a payroll tax can fall under the other income cell. But if you did want to get more specific, there's custom income entries where after you enter a number, hit enter or click out of that cell, it will give you 27 different options for labeling that income. In this case, let's just use a bonus number 3. It's one of the more common entries that I use. I like to separate out bonuses or variable income from base income. But obviously, there's a bunch of different options there. If you have multiple types of other income, you can again use those custom income cells, choose from one of these options, and make sure that you're taxing or calculating the tax correctly. Ultimately, after you have the income section input, I would go ahead and suggest filling out the tax credits and deductions section. Again, this is new for 2026. It's more important than it has been in the past because a lot of people are itemizing these days. So if you do or have one client who's paying real estate tax, I would include that in this section. Mortgage interest, I'd include that in this section. Any other itemized deductions. This new Schedule 1A allows for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So if they do have qualified tip income or qualified overtime income, this is where you would enter that total qualified income. The program will calculate the deduction that they receive and if they're available for a deduction. So you don't have to know how much the deduction is. You don't have to know the math behind it. You just have to provide the qualified tip income. And again, this is not in addition to the earned income above. This is of the earned income above, how much is a qualified tip? Of the income above, how much is qualified overtime? So this is not subtracting or adding to the total income. This section is really just for purposes of calculating tax credits and deductions, and it's asking how much of the above income would fall under these categories. Same thing, car loan interest. It's a new Schedule 1A deduction. If you do have a qualified car loan interest, you can add it there. So once you've made the income and tax credit adjustments, you really have all the inputs you need for this program to provide all the functions and calculations for you. So this is the order that I would recommend you go through after the income is in. First step I would suggest is to calculate filing options. And again, this is going to take the information we have, the number of children, the placement schedule, and it's going to run through all of the possible ways to file taxes in this family. And what this program shows is a list from really best to worst, which option provides the most income for the family, all the way down to the worst. You'll see some of these lines are highlighted in green. Those are specific. Those green highlights are options that are kind of simpler, easier. They do not require this 8332 form, which is required to allow the child tax credit to be given to the non-custodial parent. So I'll give you an example here. If we wanted to use this top row, which is kind of the best option for this couple, it's always listed from best to worst. If we wanted to use that option, it's very easy to do that. We just click back to TaxCalc. And if we click back to TaxCalc, it will take that information and it will populate this top section with that. And you can see there is an indication here that Form 8332 is needed. And that's what I'm referring to, is if you have a scenario where one party is the custodial parent, more than 50% placement, but they are not claiming that child's tax credit, they're giving it to the other parent, that is where this form is required. And again, this form can be confusing, it can be missed, it's not always worth it. But if you have a case where you need to shift over that child tax credit, you need to make sure that form is something they're aware of. If you want to simplify things, there is an option to choose from those green lines. And those green lines are scenarios where you do not need Form 8332. So to choose a different row other than the top row, you would click up here, choose row for TaxCalc, and then anywhere on the green line that you want to return, I'm going to click this top green line. I'll click there, hit OK, and now it will take that row's information and bring it back to our TaxCalc. You can see here now that 8332 notice went away, and we have our more simple version of how to file and allocate children. So that's an important piece. Let the program help you calculate that. Very often I see parties try to fill this manually, which you can do if you're familiar with tax code, but ultimately our program will only give you available options. So it's much better to use the program to help populate that section. The next step after you've calculated your filing options would be to calculate child support. And again, this program should allow you, once you've input the information, to very quickly and easily get a child support calculation. For the majority of cases, all I would do is hit calculate child support, and that brings you to this page, but I usually just bring it right back. I'm very confident with the calculations there, so it's a very quick and easy calculation for me. If I slow it down, I'll show it to you and how you can make some adjustments on that page. But ultimately, it's a couple seconds to pull in a very accurate child support calculation, and you'll see it come in here, child support paid received, and here on the right side is the monthly amount. If you do want to make adjustments on the child support side, if you have adjustments to income or other assumptions, this program does allow you to make those changes. So to do that, you'd hit calculate child support, and on this child support page, you can scroll down and see some of the other adjustments that would be available. So there is a section to show you what child support would be on income above base, kind of child support on variable income. That's a section I added last year. I find it very helpful. But really, as you scroll down, it's going to walk through DCF 150 and all of the available adjustments under our child support formula. So adjustments to gross income, inclusions and exclusions, adjustments for business expenses, earning capacity, income from assets. The one maybe more common calculation adjustment would be for serial family payers. And here in this section, you can make adjustments based on if you have an existing support order or an intact family or shared placement order. So there are adjustments that could be made here, but for the large majority of cases, I don't need to make adjustments on the child support side. I'm kind of using the assumptions I've already input to calculate child support. And for those cases, all we need to do is just transfer our result back. So child support, you need to go get it, bring it back, and that calculation is then included in the overall calculations of income and support. The next piece to this would be to add maintenance to this scenario. So we have tax filing, we've got that, we've brought in the child support. Now we need to figure out to balance income, what are some of our maintenance scenarios? There's a couple options for entering maintenance. Obviously, you could manually enter in the amounts paid and received. It's certainly an option to manually put those amounts in, or you can use this button to target a couple options. Rarely, but sometimes helpful, we can target a specific net monthly amount. Let's say someone needs to meet a certain budget or they want to see what it would take to meet a certain budget. You can kind of identify support based on a specific net dollar amount. More often, however, we're using percentages to calculate support, and entering a percentage for either party would allow the calculator to determine the amount of maintenance to reach that result. So I typed in 0.5 for 50%, and you can see added in maintenance paid and received to reach a 50-50 division. So lots of ways you can use that. Again, you can use it with any percentage, play around with it. It does require a decimal, but there is a creative and flexible way to enter in maintenance for different scenarios. Now, as you're going through these calculations, it's very helpful, in my opinion, to start building separate illustrations. So this is what we're calling scenario one. This is our first page, our landing page, but there are 5 of these available to fill in. If you scroll down to the lower right, you'll see there's a scenario section where there's entries for up to 5 comparisons, 5 scenarios to compare. And then ultimately, a scenario summary that shows all 5 of those side by side on a printable page. So I think these scenarios are often very helpful to show the progression of support with variable income, without the changes to child support. Here's 2 children, 1 child, no child. You can really step through the different calculations by building scenarios. How do we do that? What's the easiest way? Instead of starting from scratch each time, the best way to create scenarios would be to copy what we've done here and paste it into a new scenario. So to do that, we would hit copy import here on the right. It's going to ask you what scenario you want to copy. Right now, we only have info in scenario 1, so I'll hit number 1. Where do we want to copy it to? Let's put it into scenario 4. We can put it anywhere, but we can use this info to copy scenario 1, paste it into scenario 4, and now we can use scenario 4 to create something else, right? Maybe we do a 60-40 division or child support only or something along those lines. And I do like to explain each scenario up here. So if you have, some text, simple text, and you name it or a scenario, put a name in the scenario, that text flows through, so it's kind of explained in your table of contents here on the right as well. So it's helpful to kind of know which scenario is which when you give it a little bit of a description. But ultimately, scenario 4, child support only, we can go in and remove that maintenance. And now we have different scenarios that we can all view on this summary. And you can see here, scenario 4 has, different considerations, different calculations. So building these scenarios and printing this summary is something I do quite often. I think it's very helpful. It's a great visual for clients when you're looking at different options for support. Those are the basic functions and tools for TaxCalc 26. This is really the TaxCalc piece of this. There are some additional tools that I would love. There's additional help videos for these, but the additional tools that you may want to check out. There's a buyout calculator, temporary support calculator, wage stub calculator that's revised this year, a simple number of days calculation, tiered maintenance calculator, and loan amortization. And I do offer this quadro distribution tax calculator. It's pretty difficult or confusing to some, but ultimately you can look at what the cost would be of taking money out of a retirement due to a quadro. So all those things included in TaxCalc 2026. Again, I appreciate your going through this video, and please reach out if you have any questions, concern. Get your version of TaxCalc 26 today.